Nice.
It's SeerNova podcast, episode 97. Wow.
Woo.
We have Curtis or Specks, whatever you want to go by.
And I normally say Curtis, Specks, Thompson, whoever asking, If you're the government, I gotta say Curtis, but everybody else, Specks.
Nice.
You actually wanted to be on a creator drop-in when we were doing Breakfast Talk like last year, and what you actually want to talk about on there, but you didn't show up or you were busy or something, was having a fictional world like Gotham or like real world like Jersey in comics.
Yeah.
So we could totally talk about that.
Yeah, great memory. I totally forgot.
I don't have a great memory. I just looked at past messages. So.
Okay.
He hasn't enough memory to look up stuff. That's about it. It's just like he's like, I think we talked about something. What was it?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And then you do have a Kickstarter, so I'll be promoting that in like the show notes and stuff when we put this out. So yeah.
Cool. So anyways, so tell us a bit about yourself. First off, just give us like a brief overview of your world of comics. So not just like the comic you might have created, but like what got you into comics and what are you actually doing in the comic world?
All right. Well, here's my origin story. So I'm Curtis Specks Thompson. I'm the creator of the Legacy to View, and I guess currently, Boots, which is my spin-off series. I'm a DJ and I do marketing for different. I have done marketing for different artists in the music industry. Father too, basically that's what I do. I got a full-time job at Big Box retailer.
Nice.
But other than that, how I got in comics is basically I guess my first memory of actual a comic book. My sister's friend worked at a comic book shop, and she I just to make the story sound good, I think Batman animated series, Spider-Man, X-Men was going on at the time of the animated shows. I believe it was going on. So I guess to keep my interest going, she brought me a couple comic books from her shop. A couple I remember off top was a collaboration between Gambit and Cyclops. So Gambit and Bishop. It was because Children of the Atom. I remember that. Kyle Rayner, Green Lantern comic books. But the one that stuck out the most was the first Young Justice comic back in the 90s. I've had a couple issues with that, and there's characters that I should have knew about, but I tend to love them. Was like Robin, Superboy, and Impulse. So like, and just I knew the Flash, Batman, and Superman to see a younger version of who they're supposed to be at, and I guess gravitated towards them. I guess like how everybody should have did marketing wise for DC, but from there, I just grew to different things. Eventually, I started drawing and writing my own stories, and trying to place my own self in these stories, like in Dragon Ball Z and X-Men and stuff like that. Which by the time I got in high school, I created The View, which is totally different than he was when I was in high school. And back in high school, he was part of like the third or fourth class of like X-Men, like kind of like the New Mutants and stuff like that. And he was more like a combination of like Forge and Gambit. So I got out of high school, basically lost interest, not lost interest, but had other things going on besides comic books and anime and stuff like that. And I believe in 2018, talking with my fiance about what we used to do in high school, and I told her I used to write stories and draw and stuff. And she wanted me to, get back into it or try to do it again. And so I looked it up and about trying to make your own stories, comic books, and how to submit stuff to DC, because I think I had some stories about like a what if story with Storm and Wolverine's kid, and a what if story with I want to say Nightfire and that was like Starfire's and Nightwing's kid. I can't remember. Uh, and I came across an article that says, "Don't try to write for Batman. Write a story to be the next Batman." Because I to this day I still can't find the article I read that on. Maybe it was just God just put it so I go my own path. But basically it said like most time when you submit them stories to DC, Marvel, etc., they'll turn your story down or whatever. Then like months later, you see that same story you gave it to them. They said it wasn't good enough. They tweaked it a little bit and put it out themselves, or you just never had ownership of that story, or you do have ownership and you be getting did dirty like the writers in Marvel right now with their movies and episodes.
Yeah.
So with that, I went back to in the old back pocket and pulled out the View and revamped it into the story is today, which is about a high school teenager, that's trying to get in the music industry, as a musical engineer. So I just incorporate like stuff that in my life that I went through and stuff that I think was cool as superhero, and I developed Legacy of the View.
That's awesome. That's cool.
Very cool.
I was actually going to ask when you actually started writing and all that stuff, because I started writing 2014, and then it didn't actually become a thing until like 2017.
But let's see, like I said, I wrote in high school, but like the story would be like Specks, did an adventure with Goku and stuff like that. But I had pages and pages and pages of this stuff. Like I had one of them 3-prong notebooks that I can just put the pages in there, and I had the reinforcement tabs on it so I don't get so old. I had to get ripped out. Like I had stuff like that. So like
nice.
But writing in the View definitely would have been like either late 18, but definitely 19. Because I think the first book I put out was 19.
What was your character name when you're flying through space with Goku?
I had a family. So I was in the story, but it was my kids that was with them. So like there was like C-Ton, which is like my name is Curtis Thompson. So like CE for Curtis and TON for Thompson. Then like Erdis, like Curtis. Then I had 2 twins named Rocky and Rookie. I think I had one more kid. No, I think that was it. Yeah. So it's just like that. Then each one of them, like C-Ton would be like the Dragon Ball Z fighter type shows. Then one twin would be like the robots. Other twin would be like the Monster Hunter. The other one's like the space Jedi ones. Like it was crazy.
That's awesome. That's very cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, the thing we were mentioning early on, the that building that that Gotham-like world.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like you like to look at some of the stuff that you've enjoyed and then try to create your own world around it. What was the idea about the Gotham world building that you liked?
Which it really was just like trying to get some story building for my own world. But since then, I done dove a little deeper. In my world, it's JAWGA. Pronounced Georgia, or if you read it out, Georgia. Just a different take on it. And it's really, if you look in history, Georgia used to be a bigger state. It had Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and some of Tennessee connected to it. So in my story, it never separated. So I wrote like a storyline that explains what happened, why it never separated. Like the event that made it separate, it got stopped. So in my world, Georgia's like a really is it called a superpower state? I don't know, but it's a big state like New York, California, Texas, that type of state now.
Yeah,
because then if you just go from history, all kind of music, all kind of food, all kind of sports teams and stuff was all in all 3 of them states. So now it's one big state, so it's even bigger.
no, that's pretty cool. And so in that, when you were saying, let's see, like, was the idea to build a world with like the villains in the background like Gotham, or do you mean like Gotham from the old Batman? Like you mean like the TV show Gotham where it's focused around villains kind of like growing up and like becoming who they are, or do you mean like the city Gotham in the sense that it's a dark city and like there's dangerous stuff?
Just when I said Gotham, I meant like how it is New York, but not New York. So like in my story, it's so many examples now.
Do you mean like do you mean like how DC has Metropolis? I feel like Metropolis is more New York City and Gotham's more like New Jersey right across the river.
Well,
or like Chicago, like but like it's
well,
meant to be right next to it.
I'm not sure when I read it what it was, because there's been so many crises that changed up things. But I was told it's supposed to be Metropolis is daytime New York and Gotham is nighttime New York.
Oh, that's a cool take on that. I haven't thought about that. Yeah,
that was supposed to be the take on it. I heard some people say Jersey, but I think I think Bloodhaven, Jersey. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
So basically, your idea is taking, because this is kind of similar to what we've done with our world, is that our first comic starts in a city called Seer City, but it's literally the city Greg grew up in. But we took the Google Map layout of it, so like the street grids, and then we're like knocking buildings down and replacing them with skyscrapers in like a 3D model, right? Like that's kind of like how we're doing that. Like, so is that what you mean? Like taking a city that is already recognizable, changing the name, adding new features to it so it's yours, but like trying to emulate that?
Yeah, so like mine's Georgia, so like I will say a city name, I will say Augusta or Birmingham or Atlanta or Memphis or something like in my story, but like it would be like, oh, so and so attacked in Atlanta, boom, or so and so is from Memphis, but in the story wise it will be so vague that you may think they're in Georgia or Alabama just by the setting. I'll never say, because in whole it's all supposed to be Georgia anyway in my world, but I wanted to connect with the it's southern world, so anybody who's in this area will resonate with it. Oh, they're down south, so I won't really say this right here is taking place in Atlanta. Like let's say they're at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It may look like it, or it could be at the
so you don't say it is Atlanta. You just try to emulate that city. Like you might give it a different name.
If it's needed, I'll say it's Atlanta. Like one of the villains, he's from Atlanta, a certain part of Atlanta. But yeah, that in textual information. But looking at it, it'll just look like a southern place, unless I need like a key landmark or something. But you just may think it's the South. But if I need to verbally or say in text that, oh, this is where you're at, to bring the point home. But other than that, you just may think it's a football stadium. You may think it's UGA Stadium, but really Alabama Stadium was really whoever stadium. It just got the atmosphere of the South, and you just resonate with it.
That's very cool. I also didn't know that part of Tennessee was in Georgia too, because I'm over in Nashville. So like, if it went all the way out to Memphis, that's a pretty.
So if you look at the map, you'll see Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi, right? And it's like if you use your hand, it's probably like a 3 centimeters of like Tennessee or an inch of Tennessee that they used to be a part of.
Yeah, like the right third kind of thing.
No, the bottom. This is straight along the bottom half of it.
Oh, literally like a sliver across. Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a cool idea though. I like that because that's like I said, that's similar to what we did. Was we want to build our own world. We definitely went. It's funny because like I prefer Marvel comics in the sense that I think that for the most part they're more realistic than DC. Like in DC you have the god of Superman, you have the Green Lantern who can literally will anything into existence, right?
Yeah.
Like they're all like super OP, and in Marvel there are some characters like that, but like the characters they focus around, like Captain America, right, or Iron Man, like they're still human, like they can be hurt, right?
Yeah.
And I've always liked that, but we also like the fact that we didn't want to be bound by the fact that if we're in our world, right, like if we say we're in the United States, there's certain things that are like going to inherently be there, right? So like maybe, for example, we don't want the structure of the government to work the way it does. We want it to work a different way so that we can have our plot, have a cooler idea, like, oh, maybe there's these three things that are involved that are different than normal. So instead, we're trying to find areas that we like and then turn them into our own cities. And now it got to the point where Greg literally built out an entire like Earth that we have a new name for with new continents, where we have new cities. Like it's entirely different, which is awesome, but it's still inspired by the real world. But it's cool having the metropolis and having the Gotham, because then when you're like, what, like if you think it's New York City, but then it has like bullet trains, right? That's not realistic because it doesn't, right? It still has the old subways. So it's cool to be able to alter it without it, you know, just being like, oh, it's like in the future. It's like, no, we have different rules in our world, and being able to still take from our world but make it so that it's our own is very cool.
Yep.
Yeah. So where are you based again?
Right now I'm currently in Augusta, Georgia. It's like 2 hours away from Atlanta. It's right on the coast of Carolina and Georgia. If you're a
Did
golf
you grow
fan,
up there?
it's where the Masters are held at.
Oh, very cool. Nice. Yeah. Is that where you grew up or were raised?
Yeah, born and raised. Yeah.
Nice. All right. Cool. So what do you think, outside of like the landmark? You mentioned like you're trying to make sure that people feel like it's a, you know, a Southern comic, which is cool with like the visual stuff. What do you think in your storytelling you're really getting from that as well? Like what's some of the ideas that you're putting in your comics you don't see in other comics that you think is because of like where you are now?
The dialogue, as well as I incorporated certain artists, like music artists, in my first book. They gave me the green light to use that image, so I put them in my book. So like people made outside of here know who they are, because I think one artist is pretty popular, the other one's pretty, you know, central. But just that, like people down here would know exactly, oh, that's so and so. But definitely in the dialogue, because my editor is from New York, and we go back and forth. He's like, yeah, it don't make sense. I don't understand. Like, no, that's how it's said down here. Like, keep it like that. You know, just that. And most people I talked to, they're from here who bought the book. So they're like, oh, yeah, I really felt that, how they were speaking, because, you know, it sounded right coming from reading from their tongue. Like, oh, it just slid around my tongue. How, you know, what it was talking about. And just certain terms, you know, is only used down here that, you know, not used other places and stuff like that.
Yeah, like idioms and stuff like that, like little like slight phrases that like out of context could mean nothing, but in context, that's very cool. It's interesting. You have an editor in New York too, because you get someone with such a different perspective to edit it, while you can still go, well, actually, I get what you're saying, but no, this makes sense in down here. So it's kind of a cool idea, because they're gonna catch some stuff you won't catch just because you're writing it, and they're looking at it from a totally different perspective. And that's awesome, because like, for example, I edit the comics that Greg writes. So Greg writes out the story that I wouldn't come up with that idea, but now that he's got that, I'm like, okay, let's try to like guide that. So because I'm coming from like, I'm a, you know, former mechanical engineer. I'm not a creative, right? I'm not a writer. And so like I have a totally different perspective. I'm more on like the English grammar and things like that, and I'm looking at it from like, okay, like let's make sure that this makes sense. But then he's like, well, it needs to end up like this. And it's like, okay, well, how can we get there, you know, along the way? So it's very cool to work with an editor who has a totally different perspective. Nice. What's is there anything that your editor has changed that at first, like you were like, I'm not sure about, but like you ended up like liking it? Is there anything like, you know, the New York that got dabbled in there a bit?
I won't say I liked it, but like, since my comic is music based, sometimes it like issue 2 is specifically issue 2. So before he kicks his door in to go fight the villains, he's quoting he started quoting a rap song, but it's like an underground rap song that's, you know, was popular down here. It may have reached New York, but I'm not sure. And he was like, what's he talking about? What's he talking about? And I was like, he's actually singing a song before he does the thing. He said, it don't make sense because, he don't know the reference from the song. So I had to sing him the reference of the song, but then he cut it down and took some words out, so you still know it's a song, but it still fit. Because before, I think like the words took up a good part of the panel, and it was like one of them pages that had like 5-6 panels in it. But with him, it made the panel come out more. So I didn't like it, but it worked, and people still got the reference. So
Yeah.
Definitely something that like sometimes when Greg will write like he'll write a scene where there's like either too much dialogue or like there's too much back and forth, right? So because like there's a difference, like there can be like small snippets of dialogue, but if there's like 6 back and forths, even if it's just one-liners, when you try to like letter that out, like you're not going to see any of like the background art, which is sometimes pretty important for a particular scene. So yeah, it's always good to have an editor like look it over for that sake.
Yeah.
What's something that has there been anything that your editor was adamant about changing and you were like, no, we're keeping this?
Sound effects.
Sound effects?
Yeah.
What are some of the sound effects?
Was it? I don't. Is when it comes to fighting, I guess the same lingo type thing. Like I might say, oh yeah, he fought him, he hit him, and it was like bap bap bap. But he might want it to be like, bap 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 sounds bad, so make it like boom pow pow. And I'm like, no, that sounds corny. But if you tell the story with your homeboys, you'd be like, yeah, I hit him. I went bap 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 and hit him. And he's like, no, it don't sound right. It looks corny. Like back and forth like that. It's funny.
No, that's awesome. No, that's cool because like that's pretty interesting because when it comes to like the comic book sounds, there are some like classic sounds like the pow that like really when you look at it now, just because they've been around for so long, they almost seem cheesy, where like back in the day it's like pow, like it makes sense. But like nobody says that anymore when they punch someone, right? Like that's definitely something I picture my grandfather being like, I was at the bar and somebody tried to fight me and pow right in the face. Like but like I feel like that doesn't happen anymore, so it's cool to I've never thought about that, like the mnemonics, like the sound effects, like having the that be different. Because like we have our letterer, like sometimes we'll just tell him what the sound is. We won't give him the mnemonic word, right? Like we won't write out BAP. We'll just say like they're punching, and then we kind of just let our letterer play with it. And sometimes he just comes up with cool stuff. Where I'm like, I didn't even think about that.
One for our remaster that's coming out finally is a knife is like.
I was thinking of that too.
Like it's scraping across like rock skin. So you would have to.
Yeah, it's like, metal on rock.
It's like a shing thing, but we didn't know how to like write that out. So like.
Yeah, just like make a sound of metal scraping on rock, and then he wrote that out.
See,
I don't know where this is.
I was lucky. I found this thing on the internet. It's called the comic book sound effects Bible or something like that. So like, I'm
looking that up.
I think the oldest, the newest comic in there is probably from the 90s, but you can type in like Iceman shoots ice blast, and they'll have a panel of Iceman shooting ice blast and different sound effects they'll use when he shot his ice blast out. So I've been using that. So but it's old.
Dude, that's cool though, because like think about it, like the people that worked on comics back in like the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, like that was when comic books, like you could make a company that made a ton of money, pumping out a bunch of comics, paying artists to stay on salary. Like now, I feel like that's not as doable. And instead, you kind of have to have one-off creators that make something really powerful, a story, and builds a fan base, and then they can get published by some big publishing company, and that's how they kind of capitalize on it, turn it into movies and all of that. But those sound effects back then, like they really had to think about it. Like, what does it sound like when ice shoots out of hands? Like, so like they're in like they probably sat in a room and they were like, I don't know, like shring, shrew, shra, like something like, and then some of them, they might have even, you know what Foley is? Like the sound effects they make for movies.
Yeah, I see a guy on TikTok. He does.
Or Foley, that's what it's called. Sorry, Foley.
Yeah, I know there's a word, but I see a guy. He does the sound effects. He like shows how these sound effects were created for the movies. Like he had a whole bunch of different pots and pans and all kind of like hair nets and stuff. He just makes sounds. I was like,
it is Foley, Foley. In case you ever want to look that up, but like that was the thing. It's like sometimes maybe they took ice and they like threw it against metal and recorded it, and then they're like, what did that sound like? You know what I mean? Like I always wondered like how they did that, because some of those sounds, like I would never come up with like the letters that they put together to make it be like shoo, like it is like, what was that? And like they write down letters to make that sound. So it's pretty cool coming up with your own, as well as like being able to research the old ones. I'm still trying to look for this thing.
I think it's comic book FX.
Oh, maybe that's why I just spelled out effects. FX. Comic book effects sound snap. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to look that stuff up later, because that's like really cool, because that is something like we've struggled with, and for the most part we just kind of like trust our letterer to do it. He's really good anyways, but I'm assuming that at some point we're gonna come across a sound that's really unique to what we're doing, and we might have to find like a new idea for it. And it could even be as simple as like one of our characters has like these glowing tattoos that will do like powers. And with that, it's like some of them might just make the sound of whatever the tattoo is, and some of them might be like really unique, and we might have to come up with some weird sound for it. So that's definitely very cool. I guess that'll be another question for you. What, other than the sound effects Bible, which sounds awesome, what else have you found that has been like a go-to resource for creating comics for you?
Nothing really. I used to shoot music videos a couple years ago for like a good part of my life, right? Really, but so I was already like helping these artists make stories with their music through these scenes that they just wanted but they didn't know how to use. So just my ability to make a film treatment that way helped me make my panels and my scenes of how I wanted the comic to look. Like when I give my script to my artist, you know, I might have say like Chaz, which is a view, is has sit on the bench and the camera's behind him. He's looking towards the basketball goal. I make or the camera's at a 45-degree angle on the ground, looking up, stuff like that. Or you know, it's a dark tone right on this scene right here. I have specific stuff like that, which you know I can visually see if I'm looking through the camera how it's supposed to be, and I just tell him to draw it that way. So I think that helped me. Or if I'm doing a page, I don't have every scene by scene on there. Like the view, he can spawn weapons. So like not every time I show him spawning the weapon, you might not see him in one panel with the weapon. Next panel he just has it. You just already know he's spawning the weapon. I don't have to show him doing that same motion over and over again.
That's cool. Are you talking? Because you're muted.
Yeah, I keep muting myself just in case I make noises, but I keep coughing over here. So what I was gonna say was that's really cool, because Greg and I, like when we're writing out panels, sometimes like some panels we're just like, this is the scene that's happening, and like, you know, we let the writer or the illustrator kind of do their thing. And then there's other scenes, like one of my favorite scenes, I'm sure it's probably one of Greg's favorite scenes in the rework of issue 1, is a scene from an alleyway where we have a view from like an apartment window looking down at it, right? So it's just like, you know, if I was to film it, that's what I'd want to see, like this third eye perspective from like a random apartment window where you can see the whole alleyway, you see the guy walking, you see a van following him from behind, as opposed to just some like a third, you know, just what's it called, like the ISO view looking down at him. Having the frame be like the windowsill, and like there's a plant on the windowsill, stuff like that. Like those small little details can make the storytelling really powerful. And I feel like that definitely is. I feel like that comes more from seeing movies and working with that, because like, you know, that's something like when I was really young, I used to play around with video editing, but like, you know, the old Windows Movie Maker before they got rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is so fun. Like me, my friend and my cousin used to play around with it. And I'd always like think about like, you know, those scenes from a movie that were really cool. I'm like, why was it cool? And like, one of the things actually that I did to get better at describing that stuff to our artist is, you know, have you ever seen the this book here, the How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way?
Yeah, I seen that.
Yeah, so excellent book. Even if you're not learning to draw, because when I'm writing some of the stuff, I knew bird's eye view. That's a really common phrase for a lot of things. Like even in like a business setting, like we need a bird's eye view of this like campaign or whatever. But like when it came to like that ground view, I didn't know what to call it, and now I know it's called worm's eye view. Like that, just being able to write that, because I know an illustrator is more likely to recognize what that means anyways. And then I learned like close up, mid shot, long shot, discussing panoramic panels, things like that, where it's like across the whole page and includes a little more detail in the width and not so much fine point detail. Like that stuff was like super helpful. That was basically one of my first resources for trying to figure out how to edit the comics in a way that our artists, because I think the first problem with us was when Greg first wrote the comics, he wrote them like a movie, actually. Yeah, storyboard. And so when we gave that to an artist, he just drew what he wrote. But sometimes, like one of the scenes had like 6 movements in it, and I'm like, what? Like you can't do that in one panel. Like that's not how comic books work. It's a different medium, right? Like in a movie, you can have a fight scene last 20 minutes. That would be like 18 pages of like, punch and retract, right? Like you have to figure out how to like make that stuff look cool without it taking up so much space, essentially. And so like learning that stuff, the comic book design concept was super helpful for that. So yeah, that's why I was curious. Any other things? So that movie background's really cool. The sound effect Bible is a very cool resource.
Yeah, I definitely find the link and send it to y'all. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely, because like that's such a cool thing for any creator to be able to have. We'll have to put that in like the show notes.
Yeah.
Cool. So I guess are you running a Kickstarter soon?
I'm currently running one right now.
Running right now. When did it start?
When did it start? I think it started last Monday.
Last Monday. Cool. So you're about a week in.
It was like 24 days or something left.
24 days left? Cool. So like when this releases, probably 20 days. When does this come out, Greg?
I probably will put this out.
This will go first before the I just realized it's probably going to go out before the other one.
Come out Wednesday too. So like.
Oh, okay. So they just both come out Wednesday. Cool. Yeah. All right, that's cool. Two episodes Wednesday. So let's come out Wednesday. So yeah, like 20 days. 20 days left for the Kickstarter. So first off, what is your Kickstarter URL? What's the name of it?
It's Legacy of the View #4 and Boots Japanese letters chapters 1 through 4.
All right, cool. I'm gonna pull that up real quick. Let's see. Do we have Greg, do you have there it is. There's the link in someplace. Yeah. Yep. Let me do screen share screen, and screen 1. Boom. Nice. So there we go. So yeah, so you can see this, right?
Yeah, I can.
Awesome. All right. So what's your goal? You got 1,500 for the goal. You're about a third of the way there, and you're only a week in, which is awesome. Tell us a bit about this. Like what are some of the reward tiers here?
So basically, I got a flagship comic book, Legacy of the View. I'm ending the story arc I'm doing right now with issue 4. So of course you get that in digital and physical. But the real treat of this Kickstarter, I'm releasing my spin-off series, Boots, the Girl with the Robot Boots, which is a manga. And I'm giving away, you can see by that link right there. That's the first chapter. You get it for free. You get to see how it is. But by participating in this Kickstarter, you will get the next 4 chapters throughout the year as they get done. So like this one Kickstarter is for 5 books total. So like you get chapter 2 in 2 months, chapter 3, 4 more, et cetera, until we get to 5. Then I'll put out the volume version. So like the benefit of the Kickstarter, you get, if you choose, you get the physical of the chapter 1, chapter 2, which I won't be putting out. The manga will only be chapters come out in digital form, but the manga, if you want it physical, it's gonna be in volume form, like typical how we get it over here in America. So like you get the chapters 1 through 5 in the manga form. I mean in the novel form, and that'd be the physical form you can get, which is probably be released next year.
And do you say that's with the $5 tier?
$5 tier. Yeah.
Okay.
That's with the $5 tier. Yeah.
Cool. And do you say that's with the $5 tier?
$5 tier. Yeah.
$5 tier? Or is it with every tier?
Well, it says what you get in the tier. So I think I know for sure, the $20 tier, you get chapter. I think $20 you get $20 you get the chapter 1 through 4, and you get Legacy of the View, digital and the physical.
Nice. Yeah, I'm just looking at that now. I also love the naming convention. That's something that Greg and I, whenever we're working on these Kickstarters, we love coming up with like the cool names for these. And I like the bag of mixed nuts, a Snickers bar, big bag of chips.
Yeah.
Sack lunch. What we got here? Lunchbox, digital ketchup, nice. TV dinner.
I just did that for our horror anthology last year.
Yeah. Combo meal, to go box. Hibachi, that's awesome. Love me some hibachi. Casino buffet, celebrity 5-course meal, the royal feast. Yeah, these are some awesome ideas. Yeah, this artwork's phenomenal. Is this the same? Is this a different artist for the View?
Yeah. So the View is definitely a different guy. Boots has a different artist for that. He goes by David. Can't pronounce his last name, but he's from the Philippines. He does boots, and is a guy I found. He's basically been drawing for a while. I don't think he has that many like titles under his belt. He probably he's on and off with another guy on a webtoons project, but like he's really serious about my project. So I think this probably this is the one that he shows off the most on his face was my project. So I believe he is the first real project somebody actually hired him to be on full time on.
Where is he from again?
The Philippines.
He's from the Philippines. Is that his right name? Is that his name right there, Kazuki?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably how it's pronounced because that's it's all in Japanese. I wonder if that's his last name or like just a name because it's like that's like a very Japanese sounding name.
Well, I work with some Filipinos and I asked them what it is. They said it's Japanese, so he's probably trying to get the Japanese like people who want manga.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
but he's really from the Philippines. But it works, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. Yeah, it's been a minute since I've been studying Japanese and just looking at the symbols and stuff is very cool.
Well, I use Google Translate for the symbols, so.
Yeah, what does that say? It says like something like Roboshito Ru, something like that.
Wow, you pretty good. Yeah, it's a girl. Yeah, it's a girl with robot shoes.
Ah, okay, all right, that makes sense. Yeah, so robo. Yeah, that's funny because so something interesting about Japanese is whenever there's a word that didn't originate in Japanese, they will use what's called katakana characters to spell out the word, similar to an English word. So yeah, that's it. So what was that Robo Shito Butsu? Right? Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I can't read that last part, but I know I recognize it. It's like the female character. I can't remember what these. I know it's Sue something, but yeah, that's very cool. Nice, and I kind of looked at the artwork for the View, and it's interesting because you do have a manga style artwork in the sense that it's or like even anime, like it's very fast and sharp. Right, it's like like even like these explosions here, like the way that they're drawn, it's very cool.
Yeah, that was actually a panel from issue 3. So like the artist, he's the traditional Western comic guy, even though he's from Nigeria, but he does Western style comics. So he by working together for these years, he done seen that I like anime and stuff like that, and he's trying to make it like a hybrid of this.
Yeah, I was gonna say because like this drawing right here, like this looks very classic Marvel, but like then this silhouette is very like do you remember was it the Go Teen Titans, the cartoon?
Yeah.
You can tell that that's kind of got some anime-esque features to it when it's drawn. Even though it's like very cartoonish, but like the explosions are very like drawn out. This silhouette style is very cool. That gives me some what's the show? The Archer. You ever see Archer?
Yeah.
Yeah, like the intro to that, like that kind of vibe, or like Cowboy Bebop, right? Actually, I found that out the other day. I was like, I watched the intro to Cowboy Bebop, and I realized like Archer is like directly from that. I was like, it looks, if you watch them side by side, it's like so evident where the inspiration came. But yeah, it's very cool. What's one of your favorite panels that you have laid out here?
Well, I guess the studio one, you know, the dialogue there is pretty funny because they was in the studio recording the song, and it took a while. So, like, it's timestamps on the page before that and that one, and so you see Chaz is finally done, you know, mixing and mastering the songs and telling everybody, "Let's go, I'm done." Come listen to the track, and they're asleep because they've been drinking and they're having fun the whole time while he's been working in the studio. And it's been times where I've been with artists and I've seen the thing happen. Like everybody, like I remember, I don't know what year it was. It was a New Year's, and everybody was all like the artist. He was recording, doing his thing, but his friends and entourage was just drinking black rosé, like inviting like Instagram girls to come. Like, oh, you want to hang out with so and so? Come to the studio. So it's all just going on. It went for hours and hours and hours, and people passed out. Then like 4 o'clock in the morning, the guy's like, I'm finally done doing my mixtape. I'm like, dang, like, where you been at? I thought you went home. Like, but it got so bad that he had to stop, like, leave the booth and press stop and record on his own music and go back in the booth and record it because everybody else is partying and stuff. Like, it was wild.
Nice. No, that's awesome. That's very cool. Also, is that your PC?
No, that's one of the fans. He took a picture and I just thought it was cool display of the product, so I just used it.
Oh yeah. That's hella cool. And then I like the what's it called, the keyboard there. My cousin builds PCs, so I'm like, just I'm like, yeah, that's nice. Yeah, that's very cool because like my brother's like a recording engineer, like he's a record producer, so that's like the stuff that we're doing. So that's why this is very cool, like the comic book music overlap.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that's like a big deal for musicians and artists, is that comic books were like a huge thing back in like the 90s and the 80s for like even hip hop. That was huge. Like that was referenced in hip hop music all the time. And what's it called? In 2018, I went to the New York Comic Con, and there was an entire panel called "Musicians Make Comics." And the reason I was even there was because there's a company called IT Comics that came out with the comic called Neon Future, right? And so this one here. Where's my mouse over here? There we go. This one here is with Steve Aoki as a character in here. Oh. And so he worked with them. And then they came out with 6 issues of this. They came out with another one called Hexagon that was based off of DJ Don Diablo. And so it was really cool because at the Comic-Con, DMC was there. And I didn't know he made comics. And literally it's called DMC, which is Daryl Makes Comics. And so he's got that, and then there was 2 other artists there that were younger, so I didn't recognize them. But there was 2 other artists there that they also were making their own comics, and I thought that was like really cool. Like because before that I didn't really know how involved it was, and then I started listening to some of my old records, and I'm like, oh yeah, like that actually is like in a lot of these songs. Like I never really registered it, but yeah, so it's a very cool thing to see that you were in the music world. And then comics inspired you to go through and create this stuff, but you actually kept the music world in it, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were actually thinking in the future we're going to be making comics for like musicians. So there's actually like a rapper I think that Dylan knows or. Yeah,
it was one of the artists that we work with. I think it's his brother or his cousin. I can't remember. But basically, yeah, I just showed him some of these comics, and he was like, whoa, like I would love this. And that's something that, we've talked about in the future is setting up a way to create comics. Because like Greg and I obviously talk to creators all the time. We know creators around the world that create different types of comics for different things. And we're like, I bet that we could like come up with a service where if somebody wants a comic made, we could show them all the different artwork and go, which of these artists do you want to work with? And specifically, like Chance the Rapper, the reason he made so much money is he gave his music away for free and then made all his money on merchandise and shows. And so by doing that route, like you can actually potentially make more money as an artist selling a comic book about yourself than you could as a comic book creator creating comics, right? So it's like,
Oh,
yeah, so like that's part of the reason why we've created our platform the way it is we have a bunch of digital comics on our platform. We let you sign up for free, and we want to add all these other things that you can buy to support the artist. That's why we have merchandise. We want a video game set up. Like it's a
see,
very cool idea.
see, that's what I'm having trouble at right now. Cause comic book, I can sell comic books. You know, I grew up comic books. You know, but I was a little too old for the manga and anime stuff. Like, you know, like I said, now I grew up around the time like Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon and stuff like that. But like when Naruto came out, I was already in high school, and then I was like, you know.
Yeah, that's exactly same here.
So now when I'm trying to sell my manga, you know, the Boots manga, uh, manga readers don't buy chapters like that. They, of course, buy the volumes, or they just have a subscription fee. So I was like, okay, I have a subscription on my website, and they get chapters that way. I was like, well, Jump Magazine, they got one for like $2-3. How am I gonna compete with that when they can pay $3 and get Sulu amounts of manga they can read, and pay for mine, they get what 3 titles, for like $5-10.
Yeah, this is the
Then
site here, right?
yeah, and you can see the tab. I got the tab ready to go for that when I was just talking about in the webtoons. But
Yeah.
then I was like, okay, they might want to support independent art. Creator. They might do it anyway. Then I thought about webtoons. People going to webtoons and reading webtoons for free. So how do I compete like with this other manga, going on? So that's really what I'm thinking about. And you just gave me an idea. Maybe buying merchandise and shirts, maybe like the offset, but I don't know.
Yeah, like, and the interesting thing too is, like when we worked with other creators, like very often what they'll do is, and we've even fell prey to this, is they'll make merchandise with like their logo on it. But the thing is, like, nobody knows your logo yet, right? Like nobody knows who you are yet. And the idea is like you want to make merchandise that just looks awesome, that's in the vein of like, or like the realm of your world. For example, like if your character has a cool looking shirt that doesn't have a logo on it, it just looks cool in the comic world, like even just selling a version of that shirt, right? Like, because then it's like, oh, it's about this actual character in the comic. So there's a ton of ways that you can make money around your comic that isn't your comic, and that was kind of what we looked into. We noticed that there's a ton of creators out there that don't make any money, but their work is phenomenal. And I came from the entrepreneur world, looking in on this, trying to figure out how do you make money with this, and then discovered with Greg, like I remember this was like probably 4 or 5 years ago, we discovered, I think like the number one horror comic creator in the UK, like lives in his mom's basement and is 40 something years old and like barely pays the bills. And that's like the issue is because he went solely down the comic book creation lane. But think about it. Even Marvel has movies and action figures and all of this other stuff that makes that money. So I even got a 3D printer now, and I'm looking at potentially making little action figures we could sell, or
Yeah, I've been
giveaway.
thinking about that too, because like I don't like right now. I don't know my target market. I don't know is my book for kids or for teenagers. I don't really know, but I still want to make toys so I can give toys out to kids, because I ain't think kids play with toys anymore, but I got children now and they're playing with toys hardcore, and the kids, I'm looking outside at, they're still playing with toys. So, okay, toys still a thing. So like I want to go that route, because kids still playing with Spawn toys, and Spawn is definitely not for kids.
Yeah, so that's definitely a cool route to go, is to try to figure out how to expand what you like, your world outside the comic book. So like our biggest venture for that is trying to create an entire video game. Like honestly, you'd be amazed if you can create some 2D scroller, right? Like you find someone to make a 2D scroller of your game, and he's just fighting bad guys. Like that's a really cool idea, right?
Yeah,
like
that's what I want. I want the Ninja Turtle style game.
The old Sega style one.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's
Played that
one
on Super
coming out
Nintendo.
now, and I don't follow the developers on Instagram. And they're real low key and no followers basically. And I'm like, man, when I get some money, I can reach out to them because the game look dope, but they definitely got nothing under their belt. They probably got that and another game. That's it.
Yeah,
See,
there's
that's what's
a
cool about
guy
it.
that came to me because he knows that we're making a game slowly, and he wants to make like a indie comic version of like Mortal Kombat. And I'm like, oh, I know a lot of people that would want to be part of that. He's like, yeah, so like when you guys are able, but it's actually really hard to program because you have to like program all the punches and all that other stuff.
Royal House Comics, they just released a fighter with one of their titles, and it's pretty janky, but it works because they have. I mean, I haven't read their books per se, but I know them from their posting. They got their characters as selectable characters, and I guess their signature moves is one of their like power ups. So the game, it works for like marketing, but like they probably get some money behind it and get better, but it's there, it's out. You got different stages. You got the characters that it looks like the King's characters from the books in there, and you can fight with them. You can punch, you can kick, you can shoot fireballs. So
That's awesome.
it works, but it's definitely an indie project.
Yeah, well, dude, that's the cool thing though. I'm trying to look it up right now. There was a is that it?
It's the title is called Dambe, Dambe. It should be like a yellow, red, and maybe green logo. Well, can I screen share from my phone?
Should be able to.
Maybe I don't know how because I think if you leave the app, I don't.
Oh yeah, that works. Yeah, I don't think I can, but yeah.
Yeah. But the thing I was thinking of was actually a different thing as well, though. There's this bigger artist by that's probably signed to like Atlantic Records or something like that. But they had for their marketing. Oh, is this it? Dang it! No, I can't find it. For their marketing, they had somebody create a 2D fight game like the old Mortal Kombat, and they just had their characters, 2-bit style or 8-bit style, 2-bit style, 8-bit style, and just fighting back and forth. And it's really cool because like basically all you have to do is get if it's 2D, you get the basic punches and kicks down. You echo that on a couple different character designs, and then the only thing you have to do after that is maybe give each of them a special move. Right, because like you don't need to make it super complex, but the idea that if someone donates $100, they can download this game on their computer and play it, like that's a really cool idea. And then you can do giveaways later that include it. Like once you have that digital asset, like that's the cool thing about like games or anything else that you can create digitally. And in the future, there's the whole idea. We discussed this in one of our podcasts where like NFTs. You can attach like, hey, buy this NFT. It'll come with a comic book and this video game, a bunch of digital stuff. And then you also can get like a discount and buy action figures.
Yeah.
Right. And then like you can include other stuff in there. So it's very cool. Like once you get your whole world built, the next thing to do is figure out how to get someone who is a true fan to buy all the stuff that like for example, that comic book I showed you earlier, I have a poster on my wall of like one of the panels. Right. And so the reason why that's cool is because I like the comic, I like the characters, I like the creator. And so I wanted to support the creator, right? Yeah. And that's the idea is like, if you have a true fan, they'll buy whatever you sell them because they want to support you in creating more comics. So if you only sell 4 comics, that's all they can buy. They're not going to buy 6 versions of the same comic. So if you figure out like, hey, if I sell a hoodie that cost me $20, $25 to make for $30, $35 so I can get a little bit of profit, put that towards an artist to make more comics, right? That's kind of the idea. And the other part is that if I know that if I fund you so you don't have to work a day job, you can make me more comics. That's how you get the whole Patreon thing, right? That's the whole Patreon platform.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So definitely if you're looking to like get more creative, I would start dabbling with merchandise and toys and apparel, maybe video games, maybe even songs. Like what if you made a mixtape of the songs that your character in your comic made? That would be awesome.
See, that was my next route when I do fantasy story art for the View. I don't know if y'all familiar with DJ Khaled, but one of his albums, he did a merchandise deal. So like they bought a shirt and they got an album with the shirt, and which is like increases the album sales that he got in trouble for. But I was gonna do the same thing. Like, okay, you I don't know, you buy the album, you get all 4 comics, or you get the comic book, you get an album, a deal like that. It's in so like you buy the tier or wherever I got, and I send you Amazon gift card or Apple gift card or Apple link. I talked to one of my friends who's a little bit more better at marketing. He says, yeah, you just gotta link in with the distributor, and they'll give you a link that people just can get the album from the sales. I'm like, okay, that's dope.
Yeah, so yeah. There's definitely places you can go where you get like a digital coupon essentially that allows them to download it. Because like I've bought that from a stand-up comedian, right? So I went to a local comedy shop when I was in New York, or a comedy store when I was up in New York. There was a comedian there. I liked his work. I already bought the ticket. I can't just hand him more money, right? I guess I could. It'd be weird. But instead, he's selling a digital version of some of his stand-up on a little plastic card that has a code on it that lets me go to Apple and download it for free, after I've already bought it. But the whole idea is like that's a really cool way to get someone to get your to get more creative works from you outside of just the comic book, because that's how you can turn it into like a hobby of creating comics that's kind of just crowdfunded to potentially like a business where you can earn money doing it, be a creator, like the YouTube creators. Think about it. The only difference is that everything they do is digital, so it feels like it's different, but it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. They just pump out so many videos because it's free for them to do in the beginning. Where with a comic book, obviously it costs a ton of money to get set up. So if you can figure out how to basically grow your fan base doing crowdfunding in the beginning so that you're at least like semi-neutral in expenditures, and then the goal would be to take that and try to offer more things and then make an exclusive group that people come and support you as a creator so you can make more things for them. So that's why like we have our Nova Nation, right? That's the thing that we're releasing very soon. We're basically working with our creators where people will be able to donate to our platform just like you could with Patreon. They can sign up for a monthly subscription. They already get access to the comics for free. So what we're offering in exchange is, maybe some behind the scenes artwork, some concept work, some unreleased comics, maybe like comics that are in the works. We have the video game when that comes out. That'll be like something that they'll get access to first and potentially for free, as opposed to other people who might have to buy it. And then, we're going to have, what was the other thing? Oh, like unreleased podcast episodes. So like yesterday we had a 2-hour long podcast. In the first section, we didn't talk about like anything that he was doing. We just like tangented off onto Star Wars and all this other stuff. And we're going to offer all of that as like a completely back end to our platform. So someone will be able to listen to that, enjoy that. So, we'll probably upload it to SoundCloud as an unlisted thing that we can embed on our website, right? So figuring out a way to give your community more and not reduce the stuff you're already releasing. So whatever you're releasing now, you got to maintain that. That's what all the YouTubers do, right? They'll keep putting out video after video, and then they're like, okay, we're going to make more videos on another platform, and you have to pay to get access to it. So if you want me all the time, you get to pay for it. And the idea is that, if you slowly build your fan base, keep running these Kickstarters until you grow your fan base, keep marketing on Instagram and Facebook, offer new stuff like t-shirts, which you can do drop shipping with. Right, you don't have to buy a bunch of t-shirts.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna get. That's what I'm gonna do after this Kickstarter campaign, because I like having this stock pile of t-shirts around. Like that's.
Yeah.
I actually drop ship the shirts, so I don't have to actually like send them off. I did that one campaign, and then I was like, I'm not doing that again, because I had to shove like a 3XL shirt into this yellow envelope, and I'm like, that's not happening again.
Yeah. So like this site right here, this is Printify. We literally just use this site. We put our own designs in here and we link this to our website using WooCommerce, and that's it. Like, and then so we don't have to pay to hold on to a bunch of inventory. If someone wants to buy it, they can go to our store and they can pick it up. So yeah, definitely like that's the idea, is you want to get fans that are so hungry to support you. They're on your site. They're like, where can I go to give you money for something? Here's a t-shirt. Awesome. I love wearing that. And then the only other thing I would say is whatever you get for apparel specifically, like merchandise that's like toys, like action figures, like, as long as they look cool, that's fine. But when it comes to clothes, make sure they're comfy, because like for me, if I get a t-shirt If I get a t-shirt and it's not comfy, I'm not going to wear it. I don't care that it supports somebody, right? I have an Old Spice t-shirt I wear all the time because it's super comfy. I'm not trying to like brandish, what's it called? Old Spice, like it's whatever. I don't not like them, I guess, but it's just because it's a comfy t-shirt that I wear. So if you get some comfy apparel, it doesn't matter. $25 t-shirts, like people will buy it to support you. Like people do it on YouTube all the time. It's just making sure that you get those like true fans. You offer good quality merchandise, and the whole point is they know that that's going towards your creation.
Okay.
Yeah. But cool. That was definitely awesome learning about. Yeah, it was awesome learning about a lot of the stuff that you've done for the creation and a lot of the stuff you're working on now. And people know where to find your Kickstarter. But before we let you go, where do you want people to go for you? Like, where are you trying to grow your Instagram, your Facebook? Where do you want people to find you?
Well, first of all, I want people to go to the Kickstarter. If you go there, type in Legacy of You number 4 or Boots on chapters 1 through 4, it should come up.
And we'll have the link in the description. Yeah.
And you can catch up to all the works through that Kickstarter. I don't know, it's a lot of that will be available after the fact, but definitely go there right now. You catch up pretty cheap and jump on board to a new series. If you're hearing this after the Kickstarter, you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Legacy of the View. Very simple, just like the name of the series, as well. LegacyV.com if you want to get digital versions or the physical version of the books, as well as merchandise. Like we said, I got t-shirts, posters on there as well.
Awesome.
Very
cool. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Definitely.